got to the Apollo. Look, we have an opening Sunday night at Showtime at the Apollo. If you can make it, we'd love to put you on TV. Because my whole dream of being on TV.
Showtime at the Apollo ended many years ago, but only now are the real reasons behind its end beginning to surface. When Showtime at the Apollo went off the air, rumors spread quickly, each one trying to explain what really happened. Yet none of them revealed the full truth. But recently, one reason has come to light, and it points to an infamous scene that is said to have ended the show for good. What happened in that scene? Why did it lead to the show's end? Join us as we uncover the infamous moment that took Showtime at the Apollo off the air. The scene that took Showtime at the Apollo off air. For many people, the phrase, "the infamous scene that took Showtime at the Apollo off air,"
It's Showtime at the Apollo! Starring
brings up one clear image: a performer being dragged off stage by the Sandman while the crowd laughs and boos. That image has been replayed online so many times that it has taken on a life of its own. People now believe there was one shocking moment so bad that the show was immediately cancelled. Surprisingly, that is not what happened. What actually happened is more uncomfortable, more gradual, and more tied to how television, culture, and public standards changed over time. So what really happened behind the fall of one of TV's most iconic shows? Let's unpack the full story. We cannot talk about how Showtime at the Apollo ended without mentioning the Sandman, who many people later believed was responsible for the show's decline.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our very own Sandman.
By nature, the Sandman was a stage enforcer, not a television character. In the context of Showtime at the Apollo, he became the most visible and controversial part of the show, and over time, the part that many viewers struggled to accept. Amateur night at the Apollo began in the early 1930s, during a time when black performers had very few places where they were allowed to perform. The Apollo grew into one of the most important stages in black entertainment, and its audience developed a reputation for being brutally honest. If a performer was good, the crowd showed love loudly. If a performer was bad, the crowd reacted just as loudly. Booing was expected. It was not seen as cruelty. It was seen as a test that every performer accepted before stepping on stage. The Sandman emerged directly from this environment. His job was simple and clearly understood inside the theater. When a performer failed badly enough and the audience rejected them, he came onto the stage, dancing and physically removed them so the show could move on. In the theater, this happened quickly and loudly, and it was often treated as part of the fun. The audience saw it as mercy. Instead of letting a bad act suffer for several painful minutes, the Sandman ended the performance immediately. For decades, this tradition stayed inside the Apollo Theater. Everyone in the room knew the rules before stepping on stage, and no one was surprised when the Sandman appeared. That understanding disappeared when Showtime at the Apollo began airing on television in 1987. The show brought amateur night to a national audience that did not share the same history. Viewers at home did not grow up with Apollo culture. They did not know the tradition. All they saw was someone being publicly embarrassed on camera. At first, it still worked. Early seasons felt raw and real. Hosts like Sinbad and later Steve Harvey explained the crowd and tried to soften the blows with humor. The Sandman became famous. People waited for him to appear. His dance became part of the show's identity. Ratings were strong, and the show became a major platform for unknown talent. But problems started to show as television standards changed. One of the biggest issues was public humiliation. On TV, cameras zoomed in on faces. You could see fear, shock, and shame in ways that were not as obvious in a large theater. When performers were booed, the sound felt harsher through speakers. When the Sandman pulled someone away, it looked physical and aggressive, even when it was not meant to be. But that is not all. Some of the most criticized episodes involved young performers. Teenagers and even children appeared on amateur night. When they failed, they were treated the same as adults. There were moments where a young singer froze, forgot lyrics, or cracked under pressure, only to be booed and removed while crying. Parents watching at home did not see tradition. They saw a child being humiliated on national television. There were also performers who were clearly not ready for a stage that intense. Nervous amateurs sometimes broke down before finishing a song. In a live theater, the audience might see this as part of the risk of stepping on that stage. On television, it felt like exploitation. The show did not create these moments on purpose, but it aired them anyway. By the late 1990s, the mood around television was changing. Reality TV was growing fast, but networks were becoming more careful. Shows began to avoid physical contact. Judges replaced crowds. Criticism became verbal instead of physical. Elimination happened through votes, not force. Compared to these newer shows, the Apollo looked rough and outdated. This is where the myth begins. Clips from the show started circulating without context. A Sandman moment from 1993 might appear online next to modern content. Viewers would react with shock and anger. They assumed the scene must have caused outrage so big that the show was shut down. That assumption may be wrong. There was no single episode that ended Showtime at the Apollo. The show ran until 2008. It slowly lost viewers as tastes changed. Networks wanted newer formats. The Apollo Theater itself began shifting its public image. It wanted to focus more on history, respect, and legacy, not embarrassment. Over time, the Sandman's role was reduced. He still appeared, but the removals became less physical. The crowd was managed more carefully. The show tried to balance tradition with modern expectations, but the format itself was aging. What makes the story complicated is that the same system that humiliated some performers helped others grow. Many stars faced the Apollo crowd early in their careers. Lauryn Hill performed there before fame. D'Angelo stood on that stage before becoming a major artist. Jamie Foxx was booed early on and later talked about how it pushed him to improve. Steve Harvey himself nearly got booed off before returning years later as host. These success stories are often used to defend the show. Supporters say the Apollo made performers strong. Critics respond that survival does not justify harm. Both sides have a point. The Apollo did not promise kindness, it promised honesty. But television audiences expect protection, especially for young or vulnerable people. When compared to modern shows like America's Got Talent, the difference is clear. On modern shows, bad acts are often edited for humor. Judges speak first. The crowd is controlled. If someone fails badly, they leave the stage on their own. There is no physical removal. The embarrassment is still there, but it is carefully packaged. However, at the Apollo, there was no packaging. The crowd ruled. That rawness was the show's power and its weakness. Once that rawness was broadcast into homes without explanation, it became a problem. Today, the idea of dragging a performer off stage would never be approved. It would raise legal concerns, public backlash, and advertiser fear. If the show returned, the Sandman would likely be symbolic only, a reminder of history rather than an active enforcer. The truth is simple. The Sandman scenes were real. They were controversial. They did not end the show overnight. The show ended because culture moved on. What once felt honest began to feel cruel. What once felt local became uncomfortable when national. The legend survives because it is easy to believe. One shocking scene makes for a better story than a slow decline. But the real story of Showtime at the Apollo is about time, context, and how traditions struggle when the world around them changes. Even though Showtime at the Apollo was one of the most talked about shows of its time, many today don't truly know its real history. The myths have overshadowed the facts. So, how did it all begin, and what really led to its end? Stay tuned, because we're about to uncover the untold story of Showtime at the Apollo like you've never heard it before. The shocking history of Showtime at the Apollo. Showtime at the Apollo did not start as a TV show. It started as a theater with a reputation so strong it could make or break a performer before anyone bought a record. The Apollo Theater on West 125th Street in Harlem,
located in the heart of Harlem on 125th Street, the 1,500-seat theater,
opened in 1914, but it became famous in the 1930s when it started featuring black performers at a time when segregation blocked them from most big stages. Long before cameras arrived, the Apollo had built its toughest rule. The audience decided everything. Performers were not judged by critics, producers, or ticket sales. They were judged immediately, loudly, and without mercy. Applause meant success. Booing meant failure. That culture of real-time judgment became the core of Showtime at the Apollo decades later. The TV show officially premiered in 1987, but it grew out of Apollo's Amateur Night, which started in 1934. Amateur Night was not a typical talent show. It was survival. People came to laugh at bad performers as much as to cheer for the good ones. Legends like Ella Fitzgerald, James Brown, and Lauryn Hill all went through that stage early in their careers. By the time producers wanted to put the Apollo on television, the theater already had a reputation no studio could create. Showtime at the Apollo brought that story to a national audience while keeping its raw, real edge. The show was created and produced by Inner City Broadcasting Corporation, a black-owned company started by Percy Sutton, a former Manhattan Borough president and civil rights lawyer. Sutton did not want a safe, polished variety show that would appeal to everyone. He wanted something that reflected black audiences honestly, including their humor, impatience, and unwillingness to be impressed by mediocrity. That choice shaped the entire show. Unlike most TV talent shows, Showtime at the Apollo did not protect performers from failure. Losing was part of the experience. When it first aired, the show stood out because it felt real. The audience was not told when to clap. Performers were not framed as underdogs to make viewers emotional. There were no soft stories to make viewers care. Instead, the show focused on live judgment. If the crowd did not like you, they let you know loudly and immediately. That tension made the show exciting in a way other talent shows could not copy. The people on the show made it special, and each brought something unique. Howard Sandman Sims was the most famous. He was not acting. He was a Harlem dancer and showman who had worked at the Apollo long before TV cameras arrived. He represented Apollo's tradition that talent had to earn respect. Some critics said he was cruel. Fans said he was honest. Without Sandman, the danger that made the show exciting would not exist. The hosts were just as important. Sinbad, the first host, brought humor, charm, and support. He could calm tension without taking away the audience's power. His jokes did not soften the show, they made it more entertaining. Steve Harvey, who later became the main host, changed the energy. He was sharper, more sarcastic, and not afraid to make fun of struggling performers. Under Harvey, the show leaned into both comedy and competition. He didn't just introduce acts. He guided the audience, reacted to their mood, and sometimes teased performers, creating a three-way dynamic between the host, audience, and performer that was unforgettable. Beyond Sinbad's charm and Sandman's tough love, there was something else that made Showtime at the Apollo truly unforgettable. The audience itself became a character. Their reactions, cheers, laughter, or boos were as important as anyone on stage. Performers had to read the room and react immediately. Behind the scenes, producers and announcers also shaped the show. Their voices guided the story on TV, making chaos watchable without taking away the audience's influence. Musical directors and band leaders played a key role too. They kept the performance smooth, adjusted timing when needed, and saved acts that were close to failing. Returning winners of Amateur Night became recurring figures, inspiring new performers and connecting the TV show to Apollo's long history. Every character, seen or unseen, added to the show's unique energy. The combination of Sandman, hosts, audience, producers, band, and performers created a system no other show had. Performers could succeed or fail in real time. The audience judged honestly. Sandman enforced consequences. Hosts guided, entertained, and sometimes roasted. Musicians and returning winners provided support. Together, they made every episode unpredictable and exciting. The show's mix of humor, tension, and raw talent set it apart from everything else on TV at the time. Showtime at the Apollo also became a cultural record. It showed the changes in black music, dance, and comedy over decades. As hip-hop grew in the 1990s and 1990s, rappers appeared on stage. Stand-up comedians tried new jokes. Amateur singers and dancers showed emerging trends. The Apollo audience decided what worked and what didn't. This made the show a true reflection of Harlem culture, not a watered-down version for mainstream TV. Its characters ensured that authenticity stayed intact. ownership mattered a lot. Inner-city broadcasting, led by Percy Sutton, kept control and resisted pressure from networks to soften the show. This independence allowed the program to thrive in the 1980s and 1990s, unlike other shows that faded because they lost their original energy. Later, the company faced financial troubles, and ownership of the theater changed. Revival attempts could not recreate the same energy. New hosts or replacements for Sandman and attempts to control audience reactions failed because they removed the very tension that made the show legendary. It's often said that Showtime at the Apollo wasn't just different, it stood apart from every other talent show of its time, not only in the United States, but globally. Today, people still compare it to other shows, old and new. But what were those shows? And how exactly did Showtime at the Apollo manage to stand out so boldly? Let's find out. What made Showtime at the Apollo unmatched? When people talk about Showtime at the Apollo, it is often called the ultimate stage for performers. Yet many other talent shows exist in America and the world, and they are often compared to the Apollo. Each has its own style, reach, and impact, but few have the raw energy and cultural significance of the Apollo. Take American Idol, for example. Launched in 2002 and created by Simon Fuller, American Idol changed television talent competitions in a big way.
Hey, Hollywood Honors, Simon Fuller.
So, the winner of American Idol Season...
It is similar to the old show Star Search and indirectly connected to Apollo's style, but it is very different in feel. American Idol is polished and carefully produced with television cameras, celebrity, judges, and nationwide voting. Millions of people watched the show, and it launched the careers of singers such as Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, and Jennifer Hudson. Apollo, in contrast, is about raw reactions. Performers are judged immediately by the audience. There is no editing, no cameras, creating drama. The audience's reaction is final. While American Idol ended its original run in 2016 and returned on the American Broadcasting Company network in 2018, it cannot replicate the immediate excitement of Harlem's Apollo Theater. The Voice is another modern talent show. It started in 2011 and is owned by Talpa Media in partnership with International Television Studios. The show focuses only on singers and uses blind auditions, where the judges cannot see the contestant at first. The judges then coach performers through battles and later stages. Unlike the Apollo, which accepts any type of performance such as singing, dancing, comedy, or unusual acts. The Voice is strict and technical. The production is smooth and cinematic, and the judges are famous celebrities whose opinions carry weight. The Voice makes performers ready for the music industry, but it does not capture the raw, chaotic energy of the Apollo, where the audience decides in the moment who succeeds or fails. The Voice is still on the air, but its controlled environment is far from the unpredictable, real-time challenge of Apollo. America's Got Talent began in 2006 and was created by Simon Cowell. It covers all types of performers, from singers and dancers to acrobats and unusual acts. Like the Apollo, it uses live audience reactions, but it adds television drama, editing, and backstory storytelling. The Apollo Theater also had immediate reactions to performers, including the Sandman, who would remove performers from the stage if the audience did not approve. America's Got Talent has a similar buzzer system, but it is less intense because the show is edited for television. The show is still running and has become very popular worldwide. Yet, the Apollo is more culturally authentic, especially in how it gave black performers a platform when few other spaces existed for them. So You Think You Can Dance, which started in 2005, focuses only on dancing. Contestants compete in specific styles and are judged on technique, creativity, and performance. Unlike Apollo, which allows different types of performances, So You Think You Can Dance is structured and polished. Judges can be strict, similar to Apollo's audience, but the energy is filtered through television production. The show continues today, but the thrill of an audience reacting immediately and unpredictably, like in Harlem, is missing. Apollo rewards charisma and connection as much as skill, while So You Think You Can Dance is about technical excellence. But another show, at its peak, was the talk of the town. Looking at history, Star Search, which ran from 1983 to 1995, is very similar to Apollo. Created by Al Massini and shown nationally on television, it had competitions for singers, dancers, comedians, and other performers. Judges gave scores, and sometimes the audience response was considered. Apollo, however, had stronger community and cultural roots, especially within Black culture in Harlem. Star Search was more nationally focused and often made performances safer for television. Still, it influenced American Idol and other modern shows. Apollo, though, remained a live stage where audience reaction was real and powerful. In the United Kingdom, shows like Britain's Got Talent and The X Factor are often compared to Apollo. Britain's Got Talent, created by Simon Cowell and first aired in 2007, is similar to America's Got Talent. It welcomes all kinds of performers and focuses on emotional stories to attract viewers. The X Factor, which ran from 2004 to 2018, focused on finding singers who could become commercial stars, with judges mentoring contestants. Both shows are polished, dramatic, and designed for television audiences. The Apollo is different because the audience decides on the spot, without editing or storytelling. Its power comes from real-time reactions, which television cannot fully recreate, even in international versions. Dance-focused shows like World of Dance, which started in 2017, and Dancing with the Stars, which began in 2005, also offer comparison. World of Dance showcases professional dance competitions with technical judging and elaborate performances. Dancing with the Stars pairs celebrities with professional dancers, focusing on entertainment as much as skill. Both shows are visually spectacular and edited for television drama. Apollo, by contrast, allowed dancers to rely on stage presence, confidence, and audience engagement, not just perfect choreography. These shows show that performance television can become globally popular, but Apollo's unpredictability remains unmatched. Variety and comedy programs also reflect aspects of Apollo's influence. Def Comedy Jam, which ran from 1992 to 1997, had live audiences and raw humor. Created by Russell Simmons and aired on Home Box Office, it promoted black comedians and shared Apollo's immediate audience reaction. Wild 'N Out, started in 2005 by Nick Cannon, uses games, improvisation, and rap battles to engage a live audience. In Living Color, a sketch comedy show from 1990 to 1994, launched many black performers' careers, similar to Apollo's role in music and comedy. These shows emphasize audience engagement and cultural impact, but Apollo's stage remains historically significant and original in its approach. The Gong Show, which aired from 1976 to 1980 and was created by Chuck Barris, also offers comparison.
Chuck Barris died at the age of 87. He was also a producer, and he also hosted The Gong Show.
On The Gong Show, poor performers were stopped mid-performance, similar to Apollo's Sandman. The difference is that The Gong Show was often absurd and funny, making failure entertainment. Apollo's audience reaction, by contrast, was serious, intense, and could make or break a career. While The Gong Show is long gone, Apollo's influence continues in the way audiences participate and performers are tested. A clear difference between Apollo and most other shows is ownership and production style. The Apollo Theater was historically managed by Sidney Cohen and the Apollo Theater Foundation, maintaining a connection to Harlem's community and culture. Modern talent shows such as American Idol, The Voice, and America's Got Talent are produced by large media companies focused on ratings, sponsorships, and global distribution. This influences the types of talent shown and the pressures on performers. Even culturally significant shows like Def Comedy Jam and In Living Color were tied to corporate production, while Apollo kept a bridge between the community and the stage itself. Did you follow Showtime at the Apollo? What do you think was the most interesting thing about the show? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.